So let's jump into something that's on all of our mind. I don't know how much it's on the rest of the retail media world's mind, but in store. Why should retailers and brands, we'll start with retailers. Why should retailers be paying more attention to monetizing their in-store channels? Not just audio. It's not just about us, guys, but the entire in-store ecosystem. Matt, do you want to give us your first thoughts?
I think because it's so close to the point of purchase. You know, if you want to enact change and convert, like the lower down the funnel you can do that, just the better. And you just can't get any lower down the funnel than in store. It's like they can reach out and they can grab your product. They're probably only several paces away from that particular product if you can cut through and communicate well. And that for me is why for conversion driven strategies, it's just so powerful.
What is more core to a retailer's business than the relationship they have with shoppers? And when is it more important to communicate to a shopper than when they're walking the aisles in discovery mode, looking at shelves, choosing products, making decisions? And if you had a tool where you could at will speak to shoppers, influence them, enhance the shopping experience, why would you not do that? Why would that not be a key part of what you do? There's nothing more first party than the actual audiences walking through the aisles of a store.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the really interesting things about in-store, we talked about it, obviously it's bottom of the funnel, but I think you can argue in most cases, it's still, I could consider it a full funnel channel. Most of the time, you may have some recall of a brand, but when you're in, most items in center store certainly are low consideration items, meaning they're not really thinking about it. You're not thinking about toothpaste, right? Or what cereal you're going to buy, typically, until you're literally in that aisle. And so almost the entire opportunity to be influenced is within that moment of truth, within 3 to 5 seconds. So there almost isn't a funnel. It's collapsed. You can generate awareness, consideration, and conversion within seconds. And that's why any influence that you can provide, whether it's audio, whether it's sampling, whether it's screens, whether it's simply a good sale, is going to lead to a better chance of certainly a very good return on ad spend.
Right. Well, like measurement is just so you're close to the point of purchase, right? You're right there, and measurement is so much easier the closer you get to that transaction. Like the further you go up, the more difficult some of these things can get. But that's why for me, like in-store really has everything. Like audio aside, like from a conversion, measurement, smaller spaces with the actual products themselves, consideration, using audio particularly because, you know, we can influence how people feel. Like there's nothing more emotive than music itself, you know, and to talk to someone, like I could say your name across a room packed full of people and you'll be like, you know, so audio can grab attention like that. Particularly when you're in like a grocery store with high aisles, you know, you can't see a screen everywhere, but like you can cut through from an audio perspective. And that's why, you know, it's a powerful environment to be in.
There's a lot going on. So we're all sort of head nodding of how obvious it is, right? That in-store is an obvious marketing choice, right, for anyone in any brand. We've all heard the stats. About 85% of transactions are still taking place in store. 70% of a retailer's reach is in store. So this makes it even more obvious. But the famous e-marketer line of it's only 1% of ad spend is in store. Mm-hmm. Why do we think this is? Why is it so underrepresented in the market? Steve, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not like in-store media isn't happening and hasn't been happening for a long time. It's been very analog. It's cardboard signs, it's aisle blades, it's things you stick on the floor and the windows and things like that. That's been going on for a long time, and that's a fairly substantial business. What has changed and what is new is now there's a lot of technology in stores. There's digital audio, people are putting screens up, these things are programmatically enabled, and all of this is relatively new. There's a lack of awareness of some of it. You know, people aren't necessarily aware of all the capabilities that are out there, and they're certainly not aware of the scale that has been built. They're not aware that you can log into a dashboard and access billions of transactions on a monthly basis and influence them with this media.
When you say they, who's they?
I mean, the people controlling advertising dollars. So brands that are spending money. So think about what brands do to create awareness. They are everywhere. They're reaching people on the couch while they're watching television or connected television. They're advertising in podcasts so that they can reach people when they're walking through the park and walking their dog. They're buying traditional media. They're hoping to reach people in their cars with radio. They're buying social media so that they're reaching people on their phones. If you knew that you could also do that when people are actually shopping and carry the ball across the finish line, like, why would you not do that? Like, when is it a bad idea to talk to shoppers when they're in shopping mode, right? And those audiences are at equal scale to all of those other things I just talked about. But again, it's relatively new. People don't necessarily understand how to measure it, how to buy it, whose responsibility it is. Like, it's incumbent upon us to educate the market that this is an option for you. It's like, it's the opportunity. We talk about the slide. It's the opportunity hiding in plain sight. And when you see things that you used to do eroding away slowly over time, I mean, the go-to for CPG brands has been linear television. That's where the big brands were built over the last 50 years. Some of that traditional media, those audiences are being distributed across all types of places. And it's harder and harder to find mass reach and scale vehicles, except for the fact that there are hundreds of millions of people walking through the aisles of stores every month. And those audiences are available to you now in the same ways you're transacting all of these other media. But it's an awareness thing.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with that. I share so many of those frustrations. Like that stat, it couldn't frustrate me more. And the one thing that I really boil it back to is that it's in store is hard. It's always been hard.
Yes.
And I think from the people spending that money and in control of the purse strings there, you've got to think differently. And sometimes change is really hard, particularly when you've got tried and tested tactics that have just delivered forever and a day.
100%. Yeah.
But they're dying. We all know they're dying. So it takes an evolution of thinking. It's on us as technology builders to start educating, because a lot of the problems that make in-store traditionally very difficult have been addressed. You know, we've solved them. Like, in-store can behave almost exactly the same as like programmatic sort of off-site. Like all the same sort of metrics that you're used to seeing, like audience reach, you know, ROAS, iROAS. Like you can see all these things. Like we personally have developed like live dashboarding across all campaigns and metrics. You can see all this stuff as near real time as we can get the data. You know, you can see it. So if things aren't working, you can adjust. You know, you can dial in. You can add more. If things are going really well, you can get on the phone to the CPG and be like, "Hey, this is going really well. Do you want to amp it up? Do you want to grow it?" You know, it gives you the same opportunities from the digital space, but it's just physical, and just no one knows yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're kind of all saying the same thing in that you could argue that the root cause of all of this is it's an infrastructure problem right now, right? It's hard, right? As we said, and I think that, you know, this is a game of path of least resistance in a lot of ways. That's only going to get you so far, but it will get you somewhere, right? I think Citrus Ads' early success is they were the first ones to make it easy, right? So I think it's making it easy, which will then make the industry, so to speak, pay a little bit more attention, be even more willing to be educated, right? And that's why I think retail media kind of led with media versus retail, right? It's an easy, tried and true channel with infrastructure already in place, even though it doesn't quite always fit the medium itself. We just talked about all the obvious benefits of in-store that have sort of been placed secondary. And I think the other really interesting hurdle, in addition to the fact that it's just very hard to execute and it's a little bit of a black hole, is, and I've said this for forever, I know other people have said it, but there's not enough retail and retail media. So what's kind of been interesting in my journey is I come from the brand side. I used to buy shopper marketing. I used to create my own, what you could consider now retail media campaigns. And I was also on the retailer side. So I come from the retail experience, the retail mindset, instead of the kind of the technology. So there are some of these fundamentals that I think are missing in terms of building that infrastructure. It's not shopper marketing or retail media. Shopper marketing is retail media. You can use the two together, and that will likely yield better results all around. Merchandising, every retailer is run by merchandising, no matter what. Retail media is still quite secondary, and merchandising is not always on board with, why they're not convinced that an offsite ad that's measured over a 30-day attribution window is helping them. They don't want their trade dollars going there, so they want to bring it closer to the point of purchase. And I think that's a big reason why the obvious hasn't happened yet, where it's a little bit of it's obviously an infrastructure issue, like we said, but it's sort of like a brand problem. Like, of course, the marketing guy says this, but the kind of in-store retail media is sort of not. I think the folks who are kind of driving the growth of retail, kind of the royal retail media, right? They're holding the holdcos and trade desk and all of those folks don't have an understanding or necessarily the same kind of upside that serves the retailers' kind of best interests. So how should retailers approach it? Right, we've said it's the opportunity in hiding in plain sight right now. Right, everyone who's listening to this, all the tens of millions of people watching this right now are saying, of course, let's move all of our budget into in-store. But what should retailers do to begin to get their fair share?
Before they do anything, they need internal alignment. Yeah. Like from all the departments that you just mentioned, like merchandise, shopper marketing, all like retail media itself, like it is all different parts of the same beast. And if you don't have the merchandise team like dialed in, particularly when you're talking like unit uplift, like we can show that we can drive outcomes. The merchants will definitely be interested in that if you can talk their language. The shopper marketing team are the ones that are actually building those compelling sort of campaigns of like, what are the discounts, what are we doing, how's it going to work, and then retail media is the communication of that. So having all three of these departments work really closely and tightly together is a massive step forward. If you've got that internal alignment, even down to where does the money sit, on whose P&L does that sit, that'll cause a lot of friction. If people can drive it but not own it, if merch can own it, but others also drive it, they can get some amazing outcomes. But if everyone's fighting over everything and it's combative laterally, it can be massively disruptive to their success.
Yep, and they can act against their own self-interest.
Yeah, and not on purpose. It's just, it's not coordinated action.
They also have to treat it like it's a real business. They have to take it seriously. There's a lot of, it's kind of like a side hustle. It's like, we want to experiment with this. And, some of our stores have some speakers and like half of them don't work most of the time, but can you just plug it in and run a few ads and see how it works? Can we try it for like 8 weeks and see if it works? And can we put it in like, 16 stores and see what happens and see if it's, no, it has to be a real business. There's genuine infrastructure involved. Like, you're literally putting hardware in the stores and it has to work well because you have shoppers in the store. The whole reason you have music playing in the first place is because it is well known that creates a better shopping experience. It creates longer dwell times. Like, there's a reason. They don't just randomly decide to pay for subscriptions for music services. So if you want that to then be extended into an advertising business, you have to be serious about building an advertising business. In the same way that you would look at your infrastructure for your e-commerce business and your tech stack, there's a tech stack required to run a genuine, durable, asset-based advertising business in the store. So you have to think of it that way. Then you have to build it, you have to use it, you have to be proud of it, and then you have to have your retail media sales organization take that to market right alongside the other core tactics. You've got your on-site, you've got your off-site, you've got your in-store. Those are the three legs of the stool, and you need to present it that way, have the campaigns tied together that way, measure it together that way. It's not just a bunch of different, silos and like, let's measure this one, see if they all work. It has to be a core part of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the S word, silo, which I think is probably, you could define all of this into one word, I think that's the kind of the big friction point holding retail media back from its potential. And if you were to remove silos, even removing the idea of on-site, off-site, in-store, if you include shopper, include trade, you can come up with a holistic campaign. Like the full funnel kind of concept that in-store can be full funnel exists, where audio, this is one of the reasons why I got so excited, was audio can be the reach channel for in-store, right? So imagine you have a campaign that's coordinated with a demo that's happening, right? You know, Oreos are being sampled in store. You could then use audio to say, by the way, Oreos on sale, whatever, to BOGO, that's trade, and go try it in store, right? It's on aisle 4. Go test it out. All 3 of those campaigns will perform better, right? Because you're removing silo. It's one customer journey, and that involves. In order to do that, you're talking about trade, you're talking about your retail media teams, and you're talking about your shopper marketing teams. So it's about removing these sort of arbitrary silos. And by the way, there is certainly a place for offsite, especially in that model, right? You can use that as a top of funnel awareness play, right? You can even promote, and I've done this in the past. You can even promote that there are sampling events happening in store and through offsite. And I've had success doing that. So it's about thinking of this as a holistic customer journey and what that true in-store experience is and all the stimuli that you have available.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's more than an ads business. Even the merchant teams and the store operations teams, like, what are the different ways you can use this? It's not just about the ads. It's about maybe the deli has fresh bread that they just prepared and put out, and you want those messages to fire when that bread hits, or when rotisserie chickens go out, or maybe you want to promote your loyalty card several times an hour. Maybe you want to promote private label brands. Maybe you want to talk about the holidays and specials and things like that. There's a lot of reasons to use this messaging system where you can whisper in the ear of every shopper anytime you want to, besides just having brands advertise in the store.
Absolutely. Well, I'm convinced. I don't know about
You're an easy sell.
Yes, that's true. I'm a little biased.